Hello, everybody. So good to have seen many of you on our Zoom service yesterday for Palm Sunday. Well done to those who've persevered with the technology. I know that a number of you still have one or two little problems. So if I can be of any help, then do please let me know. Give me a ring and I'll try and take you through it on a one-to-one to get you all connected so that we can all be together later in the week. So yesterday saw the start of Holy Week with our Palm Sunday service. And for this week, Catherine has suggested in her latest newsletter a set of Bible readings that we use to work our way through Holy Week through to Good Friday. And so these will form the basis for our daily video reflections. And today's reflection is from John chapter 12, verses 1 to 11. Following the events of Jesus' jubilant entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, today sees Jesus in Bethany, about half an hour walk from Jerusalem. We don't know where he has spent Sunday night, but we do know that he ends up in the house of his friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Remember the sisters from another meal? Industrious Martha and besotted Mary. And of course we have their brother Lazarus, whom Jesus recently brought back from the dead. And so it is in this homely setting we see perhaps Jesus' last moments of companionship before the horrors that are to come later in the week. True to character, Martha is the active hostess, fussing around all the guests, serving them their food and drink, clearing away empty dishes. But Mary, on the other hand, only has her focus on Jesus. At some point in the meal, she brings in a jar of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She goes to where Jesus and Lazarus are reclining at the table, and seemingly oblivious to all else, proceeds to pour this expensive nard all over the feet of Jesus and begins to wipe his feet with her crowning glory, her hair. The house, we're told in the reading, is then filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Mary's actions here can be interpreted as a sign of her great love and devotion to Jesus, her master. And we can also see echoes here of what the sinful woman in Luke's gospel also did when she anoints Jesus' hair with perfume. Judas, the spiritually blind materialist, only sees what he regards as terrible waste. Hypocritically, he suggests the money would have been better spent helping the poor. John, the author of this gospel, suggests that Judas is probably more interested in getting the money for himself than sharing it with those in need. Jesus, though, sees an entirely different meaning in Mary's action. He sees the tremendous love behind the action and interprets it as a symbolic anointing for his burial. Dying as he would, seemingly as a common criminal, on a cross, Jesus would not normally have been anointed. In fact, he was not anointed after his burial at all, because that was when, on that first Sunday morning, the women went to do that early and found that the stone was rolled away and an empty tomb was left because Jesus was already risen. Perhaps knowing his body wouldn't be in the tomb to be anointed, and that he would already have been risen on that first Easter Sunday, Jesus reprimands Judas for his outburst, and in effect is telling Judas that this was then the only opportunity that Mary would have to use the perfume she had saved to anoint Jesus' body for his burial. Jesus continues by saying, "You have the poor with you always, you will not always have me." This is not to be understood in any cynical way. The poor cannot be truly loved except in God and in Jesus. You may recall the saying that Jesus gave once as As often as you do it to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do it to me. Only those who truly love God are able truly to love the poor and all those in need. I find it interesting that if we look back to the Jewish tradition of the time, there was disagreement as to whether giving alms to the poor or burying the dead, which would have included their anointing, was the greater act of mercy. Certainly, those who were in favour of the burial thought that it was an essential condition for sharing in the final resurrection. And then finally in our reading, we're told that Lazarus's own life is in danger as well as Jesus. Lazarus, having been so publicly raised from the dead, is seen as the living sign of Jesus' divine power, and so they must both be wiped out. Over the centuries since this first Holy Week, many of the Church's martyrs have died for the same reason. The word martyr meaning witness, witnessing to the truth, love, and power of Christ. And so I leave you now with something to ponder then as you journey through this week of Jesus' Passion. Are you willing to be a martyr, a witness for Christ? To stand beside him on the cross as he is mocked and insulted? This is the week then, perhaps, for us all to look deep within ourselves to find the answer to that question.